Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. This episode is continuing our discussion of films of 1994. I'm your host, Michael. Jacob's on the other side.
Hello everybody, I'm still here. It's nice and sunny where I'm at now, but still chilly.
You butthole.
I need lotion. My skin is drying. Like, unbearably drying. Like, to the point where I'm getting little cuts. I'm like,
When I was out there, I think I utilized my leather coat maybe 2 weeks out of the entire time I was there. That wouldn't even be close enough for anything right now. That leather coat would be ripped through by the wind instantly.
Not at all. Oh my gosh.
It's pretty brutal, yeah.
I saw a video once of, like, someone taking, like, a wet shirt out in Antarctica. They put it out there for a couple minutes and the shirt was frozen.
Yeah. It's no, yeah. Well, I mean, like what, a month ago it was 17 degrees below or something like that, wind chill, 35 degrees below wind chill. That was the most brutal. I mean, I had 3 pairs of socks on, 2 pairs of pants, like sleep pants under my regular pants, like 2 layers of shirts, 2 hoodies, and I was still just like so insanely uncomfortable. This has nothing to do with the episode. How about we get to the discussion of movies?
Yeah, let's go to a nicer climate. So,
all right, we got 5 films for you. What are we starting off with?
Okay, we're definitely starting off with Legends of the Fall.
This made Brad Pitt a star. Everybody talks about Interview with the Vampire. That really it's hard to say that was his movie alone. It was sold because of Tom Cruise. Brad Pitt was like, people were talking about him, but all the movies he did before this tanked. You know, Cool World, California, and I think there's another one in there somewhere. They just didn't do very well. He got some acclaim, of course, because of the River Runs Through It, but that didn't make a lot of money. And then Thelma and Louise, but he's only in it for, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at most. And they do this on a regular basis where they try to find something to make this actor, who has got some heat on him, a star, a legitimate A-lister. And Legends of the Fall didn't make as much money as Interview with the Vampire, but it is his film. This is an epic star-making. This feels like it's out of the 50s or 60s. You know, they would do with those stars back then.
Right. Again, watching how this movie did progress, like, you can definitely see Brad Pitt's, like, dramatic talent just really come to fruition, especially when he's trying to rescue Samuel, played by... Oh, God, why am I blanking on his name? He was Elliot in E.T.
Right, Henry Thomas.
Yes, Henry Thomas, yes. But he's trying to save Henry Thomas, and in that moment, he's just, like, crying out and just absolutely anxious and fear, not caring whatever's in his way, just to save his little brother.
Yeah, it's Henry Thomas is only in maybe 15, 20 minutes of it, but his role is absolutely critical to steering the rest of the film. And it takes place over, like, a 50-year period of time where it's pre-World War I. You know, we're on the end of, like, the Old West kind of thing. And we're progressing through World War I, you know, and in the Depression and stuff like that, and then just bounces through time as you revisit Brad Pitt, Anthony Hopkins, and Aidan Quinn and their relationship through the years. And it's a true struggle because he has, I guess, what you would call PTSD back then. Or you call it now, but it didn't have a word for it back then.
Right, yes. You can definitely see that, especially, you know, Samuel, Henry Thomas's character wanted to, like, join in on World War I, and his dad was, like, you know, furiously against it. He doesn't, again, considering that he doesn't want them to endure what he went through. And from what we can tell, especially, like, through the narrator of the film, like, yeah, no, he was, again, especially like you said, at the end of, like, the old Wild West era, everything's becoming more established. Everything's starting to gain, like, more cities are being developed. And, yeah, we can definitely tell, considering Anthony Hopkins' character had done, you know, in, you know, practically wiping out, like, indigenous peoples.
Yeah.
And why he just, like, wanted nothing to do with U.S. military or anything about it, because it's like, dude, this is what ultimately will end up being. So he doesn't want to pass that on to his sons or have his sons get involved with that. But considering, like, the scale of that war, again, you can only again, Anthony Hopkins could have only been done so much, considering Henry Thomas was so stubborn, like his father.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just to see their characters just ripped apart as these events are going on. Himself was like pointing out how like the rift between Aidan Quinn and Brad Pitt was getting further.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this is you have three brothers vying for the same woman, and that's another thing that tears them apart. The shit that she goes through is insane, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a happy ending movie. This is full on drama. It is hard shit to take. So if you're not prepared to deal with a lot of death, some truly tragic, it's going to be harder to get through, I think, for you. But it is a story worth telling. I'm glad the director, Edward Zwick, he's not as prestige as he used to be, because I think like he had too many flops and he started doing some other stuff. But this is a guy who had just come off of Glory and would do Courage Under Fire and The Siege and Last Samurai, Blood Diamond, that kind of stuff. That's really big, epic storytelling. And I don't know what director we have like that anymore that tells these huge stories.
Oh, gosh. I think the only person who's ever come capable of it was, like, Spielberg or perhaps... Oh, God, maybe Michael Mann with Last of the Mohicans, but...
Yeah, okay, Michael Mann I'll give, yeah.
Yeah, other than that, nothing else really comes to mind right now.
Yeah, it's just, I think if it was in lesser hands, I don't know if the story would have worked as well, because it could have been played over dramatic like a soap opera. And it has, I think, like the bare bones of like one of those old miniseries like North and South or, Dynasty Dallas kind of feel to it. But it took a really good director and a really good script, honestly, to make this all work. And it is, like I said, it's very hard to take because there's a lot of death in it, and it's truly tragic.
Yeah, but like as it got closer to the end, though, that one final little showdown, Aidan Quinn did show up for the family, and it was nice to see some of those people had done it. Considering one particular character they killed off earlier, I'm like, good.
Yeah, it's Aidan Quinn. Aidan Quinn is interesting because there was a point where in the 80s he was introduced as like a new James Dean kind of guy. And it just didn't happen. He got to star in a few movies around this time, but his star faded almost immediately after. I don't know what he starred in afterwards. Now he's just like one of those character actors. So, I mean, more power to him, though. If he's getting work, he's getting work.
No, absolutely, yes. Again, I feel like he did have the particular look he would be known for, like his eyes, for sure.
Yeah. What is the next film we're discussing?
The next film I wanted to discuss was another big drama, and again, childhood classic. Always grew up watching this. My grandmother loved it. Then again, it was Tom Hanks who couldn't love him. Forrest Gump by Robert Zemeckis.
I think this movie gets a lot of bad rap for two reasons. A, it was so entrenched in our vernacular for so many years. Run, Forrest, run, Jenny. Life's like a box of chocolates.
Oh yes. Oh god, that would be constant.
Yeah. So I can see people getting sick of it from that viewpoint. And B, it beat out a lot of movies I think that might have been better, and I think that's what pissed people off, is that it's kind of like this big Hollywood saccharine sweet, whereas there was other movies that were kind of bucking the system, like Shawshank and Pulp Fiction and Ed Wood and stuff like that. But you have to remember, the Academy isn't you. It is a group of people, that are in the film industry, and what happens usually is the cool movies cancel each other out because they get just enough votes, to beat each other, but never beat the one that's right in the middle that just pleases everybody. And I think that's where a lot of the hate comes from. I do not think Forrest Gump is a bad movie. I actually quite enjoy the movie. I love what the vision that that Winston Groom and Robert Zemeckis had for this character.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And again, Tom Hanks just never. I don't think he could ever phone it in. He always does just a fantastic job, and even Tropic Thunder kind of pointed out his style of going with this kind of character. I mean, there was clearly a nod to that.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it is a very delicate way to make a movie starring someone with special needs without insulting it, making it a character. How do you say it? Like
a caricature.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a better word for it. Denigrating, I guess. Stereotyping.
Yeah.
And it's a very fine line with that. I think they do the best they can. Some of it's a little cringeworthy, and I think if Tom Hanks hadn't played the character with love and respect, as if he was just poking fun at him, I don't think it would have worked anywhere nearly as well.
Oh God, no! Look at Sean Penn and I Am Sam. Look how that turned out.
Yeah. The one thing that doesn't work for me, and I think is unnecessary now, but I know why Zemeckis did it, because he wanted to push the boundaries of technology. And Zemeckis seems to be more interested in the technology than the story, and I think sometimes that can trip him up. Is the flashback scenes or whatever when he meets celebrities and they incorporate footage of Forrest Gump into it? I don't think that works. I never thought it really worked.
Yeah, no, honestly, especially like watching it, it would be hard to tell that that was fake because it was so well done.
The one scene that's so clumsy though is the one where he's in the interview and John Lennon's sitting next to him and they're talking about the words that eventually become imagined. I was like, oh, that's shit. That is a shit scene.
Oh God, I know.
But Sally Field is so good in it. Robin Wright Penn, Gary Sinise, holy shit, he almost steals the whole fucking movie.
Oh, absolutely, as Lieutenant Dan, my gosh.
I do feel kind of bad for McKelty Williamson, though. He doesn't get much to do. Though it did give him work later, so, guess it worked out.
Right. McKelty Williams. That's Bubba, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no. Oh, my God. Yeah, seriously. Even for, what amount of screen time he had such a huge influence on Forrest. You cannot deny that.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Bubba Gump's?
No, I've always wanted to try.
We used to, when I lived in Monterey, we would eat there occasionally, and they play the Forrest Gump soundtrack and the movie all day long, and if I was an employee of that place, I would fucking lose my mind.
Right. I mean, it would depend on, the movie, no, the soundtrack, I'm like, it's a good soundtrack. I like it.
Yeah, but it's only 2 CDs, and you're playing those same songs over and over and over. Holy shit.
They really got to switch it up.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. No, oh God, even when I worked at a hardware store, and oh God, the Christmas playlist was the same again and again, and hearing Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You."
If I ever hear, I'm on a hippopotamus for Christmas, or whatever that is.
It will eat you alive, child.
Yeah.
Well, one more thing I do want to say about that movie. The ending when, Forrest is dropping off his son, saying, I'll be here waiting for you. Then he gets picked up on the bus, and it's the same bus driver. And she recognizes the name Forrest Gump Jr., and she's like, all right, come on in. You can tell she looks out for him. I think that it's just a fun adventure to go through time. It's what do you call that? A Ziegfeld? I think Selig? Whatever. Woody Allen made a movie in the 80s where that kind of thing happened, where it was a famous person or a guy who ended up in all these famous things that happened throughout time. So, I don't know what else to say about this. This is like one of those ubiquitous, massive hits. Everybody's seen it, but I think a lot of people overhate it. Oh, absolutely, yes.
They talked about doing a sequel, because there is a sequel book that goes from 1982 to 1997 or something like that. I don't want them to ever do that. I just leave it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, leave it where it is. It doesn't need to be touched upon. That was the perfect way to end it. And again, the parts with Jenny and his mom passing just. Ugh,
yeah, the rippy part. He found a really good balance of comedy and drama. I mean, it really pulls your heartstrings. The score, holy shit, that score by Alan Silvestri. Ugh.
Gotta love Alan Silvestri.
Yep.
Oh my god. So many movies he's been involved with. He did Back to the Future. He's done The Avengers. He also did the first Captain America film. There was something else he did recently. Oh yeah, Ready Player One.
Okay. I just saw something. I was kind of surprised they spent the money on his, because it looked like it was kind of a lower budget movie. I'm gonna cheat and look, but you go ahead. What else did you want to say about this movie, or do you want to move on?
I want to move on. That was the last thing I could have said. That was such a sweet ending.
Next.
Okay, next movie. Okay, now we're getting a little bit more comedic and fun and upbeat. This was another big hit for Jim Carrey, and it's one of my favorites growing up, The Mask. And it was based off a Dark Horse comic, if I'm correct?
Yes. Actually, yeah, this is when Dark Horse, they had a deal with Universal, or Largo is what I should say. And the first one was Dr. Giggles, which is weird because the first Dark Horse Comics movie is not based on an actual comic book. It's just from the guy who owned and ran Dark Horse. He just wrote the script with a friend of his. And then they end up having a deal with Universal for years. And if they passed on any project, they could shop it around to someone else. Well, they passed on The Mask, which is a huge fucking mistake. And then New Line Cinema got it.
Yeah, good on New Line Cinema, my God. New Line Cinema did that, Blade, and, oh God, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, there was a time when New Line Cinema was the hot up-and-comer, and then they just had too many flops. They overextended themselves financially, and it cost them. And Warner Brothers said, nope, no more. You're done. We're running this.
Oh, they also did Mortal Kombat as well.
Yeah. Alan Silvestri, that's what I was looking at. I watched Sidekicks, the Charles Bronson, or not Charles Bronson, Chuck Norris movie where the kid...
Yes.
Yeah, that movie's not good, but that score is great.
Even if he did a bad movie, oh no, like if there's an Alan Silvestri score, he'll make something out of it.
Yeah. The Mask ended up at New Line Cinema, and I remember at the time reading in like Cinema Scope or whatever, I can't remember the name of the magazine was, Starlog maybe, where they said this is our biggest risk. We're spending a $23 million, like this is a record for us. And like $23 million, that doesn't sound like very much. But if you think about, if you look at New Line Cinema's filmography, they had Freddy movies carrying them for the first 6 years, and then they had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles carrying them for like the next 4 or 5 years, and then if The Mask hadn't hit, I don't know where they would have been financially. They might have been out of business, or someone would have bought them up sooner. But this is like a run. If you look at after The Mask, it is almost nonstop hits.
Oh God, yes, that came out in '94, and some of the other movies I mentioned, like, were ones that came out later.
Right. Well, they had Dumb and Dumber, they had Mortal Kombat, they had Seven. There's a bunch of them are missing in there. I mean, there's still a couple that were kind of duds, like Senior Trip, but that movie made money on video. You know it.
Oh yes, no, I had it on video. Senior Trip was one of my favorite National Lampoon movies, and it's when I first saw Jeremy Renner.
Yeah. The Mask is from Chuck Russell. Now, Chuck Russell had a big hit with the Dream Warriors, the third Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But then he went over to Columbia and did The Blob, and as good as The Blob is now and everybody loves it, it was a massive flop, and it almost killed his career immediately. And if it wasn't for The Mask, I don't know if he would have ever made any more studio films, and thank goodness this worked. And he's really good at balancing comedy and special effects and performances. I think Jim Carrey is really great in this, and it shows that he could have been more than just Ace Ventura, the in living color obnoxious guy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, even at the beginning scenes when he's like giving those 2 tickets to that one coworker, and he wanted to, hope that he'd end up going with her instead of her like a friend coming in last minute.
Yeah.
Ipkiss. Down his luck when it comes to like romance and relationships.
Stanley Ipkiss. I will always remember that name. But it's I was gonna say, I can't remember now. My brain farted. Oops.
Is it a particular character that you
can't
remember the name of?
No, what I was gonna say was, in this movie is a big part of why swing music got hot. And remember, for like the last half of the 90s, swing music was in tons of movies. We got singles, like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, Cherry Poppin' Daddies, Brian Setzer Orchestra. There's a couple other in there. The Squirrel Nut Zippers. Those guys, Royal Crown Review, they all had, hit singles. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, I guess swing is back. What the hell?
Yeah, I know, for sure. Oh, yeah, especially with Harry Connick singing that one song.
Yeah. Well, and they had, what's the song in this? You and Me and the Bottle Makes Three Tonight. Is that from this, or is that from Swingers? Because Swingers was another reason why swing music got so big again.
Oh, that was from this, for sure.
Okay. Hey, Pachuco. And then what's Cuban Pete? Now that was a big fun number. I love watching that.
That's easily one of my favorite scenes.
There's a thing that I do from this movie all the time. Is he does it like 6 times in the movie, and I don't think people really notice it that much. But do you know the part where he would say something funny, go I, and take off?
Yes. Oh god. That would be one of his trademark things.
I love that.
Sure.
The comic the comic's a lot more violent, so at least they toned it down a bit for the movie. It's still got crazy violence, but it's really cartoonish.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, knowing that, Jim Carrey having a big following and, kids are probably going to see something like this, because it looks like it would appeal to kids.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just like all the little crazy cartoon shenanigans, especially with the Chuck Avery cartoons that would appear, definitely did have an influence on his wackiness.
Tex Avery. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Who else is? Oh, yeah, Richard Jenny was in this. Great supporting cast. Cameron Diaz, I think this was like one of her first films.
I think he is introducing her.
Yes, I think so too. Oh my God! And then again, she's been so big since then. I think she did retire recently.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in like 10 years. I think the last movie she did was Sex Tape.
Or was it that one with? Oh God, it's that one where she's with she's with Leslie Mann and she's sleeping with her husband, and he's sleeping with someone else.
Oh, I don't know this one.
Yeah, I think it came out a few years ago. I can't remember. It was like kind of a rom-com kind of thing. Yeah, it was actually pretty funny.
But it's a big, fun, festive. I love this era of comic book movies because they had that 40s vibe. A lot of it is because of Burton's Batman, because then we had the Rocketeer, Dick Tracy, the Shadow, Phantom, the Mask. Clearly has a heavy influence of Art Deco. And I kind of miss that. Now everything looks kind of flat visually. Or it looks so gray. I want another movie where they have Art Deco. That's why I like the first Avenger so much.
Right. Oh gosh. Now, when you say Art Deco, like as an art decoration, like more practical effects? Or...
No. Art Deco is a style, a design style that they used from like the 1920s to the 1950s, and then it turned into post. I can't remember all of a sudden. I used to know these things. Postmodern. No, the 50s was postmodern. And then I don't remember what came after that. But there's a very hard edges. I'll show you some pictures of what Art Deco looks like in a Batman the Animated Series. The look of that is Art Deco. Lots of shadows, lots of hard square lines and stuff like that. Big circles. Yes. This started a very fruitful relationship for Dark Horse Comics and Universal Studios, because after that they didn't turn down any more projects. They're like, "Oh, we fucked up with the Mask," but then they did.
What have we not done? Is the question.
Yeah, they did the Hellboy movies. The first two Hellboy movies, Time Cop, Barbed Wire, The Virus is one of them. That was a huge flop, but that was with Universal. And for a while, Dark Horse was getting a lot of movies made. I mean, they are responsible in a heavy way for getting Aliens vs. Predator made.
Oh, yeah, because weren't they the ones publishing those
Yeah,
comics?
they licensed the characters, they put them in a combo together, and then Fox said, "What? This is a hit." They also did Mystery Men. So, while financially they weren't all successful, but I think creatively, Dark Horse had a very good vision for what they wanted to do.
Oh, gosh, even looking at Mystery Man, absolutely.
This is the year for Jim Carrey. 3 hits in 1994, and 1995 is going to be no different because he's going to have 2 huge hits there. It's not till Cable Guy where he stumbles a little bit. It's just so interesting, though. Every movie he did was a massive hit.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Like, again, he was just so funny and great to watch, and like one of the best entertainers of the 90s.
All right. So, what is our next film?
Okay, our next film. Oh gosh, Airheads.
This one's a little bit harder to find, folks. It was on HBO until like 2 months ago, and they pulled it. I don't know what's going to happen. Fox is basically throwing away a lot of their catalog. If it wasn't a big hit and it was from the 90s or earlier, it's basically disappearing. So, I mean, just go find a copy wherever you can. Wink, wink.
Yeah, but hey, considering there's a renaissance going on right now, I'm pretty sure it's probably going to get some more popularity.
Well, I wish that Disney would license out their own movies and the Fox movies to like Shout Factor, or somebody who's going to give it love and care and fix those, clean up the prints, give it extra features. And
absolutely, I
had this soundtrack. I listened to this all the time, and I really thought this was going to be a big hit. I think the studio even thought it was going to be a big hit. A late summer, it's like the first or second week of August, and they were like, this is going to ride out for like 6 weeks as a hit. And it just didn't happen. And I still don't know. I think it opened up against Clear and Present Danger I mean, but that's not the same audience. That was a huge hit. Maybe In the Army Now. I don't know what it was that people weren't interested in. And Brendan Fraser had 3 flops in a row in 1994. It nearly killed him. This is Sandler's first main character role. Steve Buscemi's now in a studio system instead of doing independent movies. And Michael Lehman really needed a hit because he was coming off Hudson Hawk, and at the time everybody hated Hudson Hawk. Now we're kind of okay with it. It's packed to the fucking gills, and this is the era when we would see movies like this, where they're just packed to the rafters with so many stars. And I don't know when that started. Maybe Wayne's World, because it had 30 different characters in there that were filled by people you knew or up and comers. There's Coneheads, So I Married an Axe Murderer, this, Greedy, which we'll discuss in the next episode. Where it's just an all-star comedy cast, and yet didn't connect. They did on video because it was played on Comedy Central a million times, but in theaters no one cared, and I always wonder why.
Yeah, no, honestly, considering what I think there was that particular GQ interview recently where Brendan Fraser and Adam Sandler were talking to each other, and I think there was just one particular phrase that was used to describe Adam Sandler, and Brendan Fraser said no, he's not that phrase, he's just an overlooked champion.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and I was that's one of the most positive things that's actually one of the most positive phrases that could be used to describe this film.
I mean, they are kind of dopes. I think what they do is they're impulsive and they don't think before they act. And then, every time they try to get out of it, it goes wrong and they keep getting stuck in this situation. I think that's why you start rooting for them. And a lot of people, on the other side, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Joe Mantegna. And Ernie Hudson and stuff like that, they're actually fighting for them.
Pretty much, yeah, in the end. Oh, God. And then, of course, there's Michael McKean, who's just wanting to... Because he was the sleazy owner of the radio station. He was the president and running operations. Oh gosh,
Michael Richards being a complete and utter spaz. This is the closest he'll ever come to doing Kramer. I watched Trial and Error, which is the movie he did towards his run on Seinfeld, and he's trying so hard to shake the Kramer persona. And I feel sorry for him because every time he got hired for something, they forced it into a Kramer situation. And that's a big reason why he quit, why he walked away, because he couldn't stand. Because he was like an Andy Kaufman kind of guy. Really challenging, difficult comedy that sometimes makes you uncomfortable. And for him to constantly be forced to repeat his Kramer character had to piss him off.
Oh, God, just like what they did with Andy Kaufman, now that you mentioned him, regarding the whole vodka thing.
Yeah.
Ugh. But yeah, no. Again, I forget what exactly the particular motif and the theme of this movie was. What regarding the social satire of it.
I think a lot of it was. I think it was commentary on the fact that grunge had been bought up, which was something authentic and unique to a very particular area of this country, Seattle, and then was manipulated, marketed, and just turned into another crass commercial thing by the time, just a year later, all of a sudden it's because everybody needs to wear flannel, everybody needs to have droopy, gross hair, it's grunge is the hip new thing. And, that's the kind of thing that I think what this was commenting on is just crass commercialization, just money.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that point was kind of made within the movie, especially at the end when they needed the lip sync for their live music video, and they're like, no, we're not doing that. They didn't cave into it.
AC/DC is the only band I know that shoots all of their videos live. That's why they never really look like movies. They always look like they're just done on a stage. Is because they have to perform the song live. They will not do dubbing or voiceover. What do you want to call it? Lip syncing.
Right. But man, again, that when you mention the soundtrack, there's so many great songs. Just that opening song by Motorhead featuring Ice-T.
Born to Raise Hell.
Yes, and then of course, the mosh pit scene where Chris Farley, playing a cop, is trying to find Brendan Fraser's girlfriend to get a copy of the tape that they need to play for these to play over the radio. And he gets involved with that mosh pit where White Zombie's playing. Oh man, that was such a dope track. And it was so, and that must have been a lot of fun to get involved with that mosh pit. And everybody loved Chris Farley.
Yeah, I mean, he was really building up steam at this point. I mean, he's just around the corner from Tommy Boy. Yeah, I had this. We listened to this in college all the time. But the funny thing is, now I haven't listened to it so long that I don't know. No Way Out, of course, is the fake Airheads or Lone Rangers song. It's by D-Generation, which I absolutely love that song.
Oh yeah.
What is the other one that was in there? Stuttering John, I'll talk my way out of it. I remember that one being really cool. Which he wasn't even really a singer. He was Baba Booey, I think, or something like that on what's the show again? Howard Stern's show. He was just like a side character on Howard Stern. I don't think he was Baba Booey. He was another character though. But We Want the Airwaves by the Ramones is my favorite track on this. Even though it's not original to this, it's from an older album, but I love it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, considering it goes so well with that movie too, considering what they had to do. There's one more thing I do want to say, like the list of demands to get the insanity plea.
Naked pictures of B. Arthur will always be stuck in my head. My favorite line from this, though, is when he's trying to get Pip to be... God, no, there's so many lines in this. I Ain't Farting on No Snare Drum is one of my favorites. But I love it when he's like... when he's trying to get him to be tough, he's like, I'll stab your head with my dick!
I know, dude. I couldn't stop laughing at that. Like, oh, God. How many takes did they have to go through? I mean... Considering Steve Buscemi and Adam Sandler do have some history working together.
Yeah. Did you happen to notice that Alan Covert was the cop outside the building when Pip was doing the robot, trying to get away or whatever?
Yes. Oh gosh. I do. Yeah. No. Now that you mention that, rewatching it, I'm like, oh god, yeah. Wait, that's Alan Covert. Oh shit.
Now I want to go watch Grandma's Boy.
Oh my god, that was a flop in the theaters that was a huge hit on video.
That's the only movie he ever starred in. Maybe he just was like, oh fuck, that didn't work for me, so I don't want to do that again. But I thought he was great in that movie.
Oh, absolutely. I know. I mean, it's not his fault that the movie didn't find an audience. Plus, it wasn't even marketed or pushed out there as much.
Oh, it was like the first week of January. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah, no, that was a problem.
All right, so, speaking of not giving a shit, here is the last movie of this episode, is Radioland Murders, where Universal just said, fuck it, it's George Lucas, we'll say yes, but then we'll just dump it. I think, obviously it was never going to be a big hit. There's not enough names attached to this, and it's not really a hip. It's such a unique, odd story to tell. I'm fascinated by old-time radio. I listen to old-time radio, I'm not kidding, almost every single night when I go to sleep. The production that went into this alone is fascinating, but also the fact that the people are getting killed left and right. But
yes, absolutely. That's what I was going to mention. The production value of it, giving it that old, 40s and 50s vintage feel.
Yeah. I love looking at, like I said, this is Art Deco. I love looking at them. But I also love the fact that they chose so many of these great character actors. None of them are really stars. I think Christopher Lloyd is really the only name here that would appear above a title. And he's only an and. He only shows up like maybe 5 minutes, but he's funny as hell every time.
Yeah, he's the sound man. He's the one creating all the sound effects for whichever show was playing.
George Lucas's relationship with Willard Huyck and his wife. Can't remember his name. The name of his wife. Katz. Something. Whatever. It must have been hard for him because everything that they got attached to basically bombed. Because they did hit big with American Graffiti, but then they had like Best Defense, which is Dudley Moore's worst movie, Eddie Murphy's maybe worst movie too, Howard the Duck, and then there's a long gap, and there's Radioland Murders, and that also flopped. That had to sting a bit.
Yeah, it's a damn shame that movie was a flop. Honestly, I mean, it was just like just so quick, so kind of like with Noises Off. That fast pace, very quick-witted dialogue, setting up these situations, a lot of slapstick comedy.
Yeah, it's funny. There are a lot of movies like this where, like Once Upon a Crime, like you said, Noises Off, where there's a lot of cast members that you are very familiar with, a very fun, fast plot, and they just didn't connect for whatever reason. There's Passed Away too. That was the one that was filled with a bunch of stars, and I wonder what it is that turns people off. Were we so obsessed with movie stars at this time that we needed to focus on just a couple leads? I mean, this is like peak time when we're focused on the big A-listers, and this just didn't have it. It was all just a bunch of character TV, kind of guys. And also the fact that, I mean, I don't know what I was up against, but it only made $1.4 million. Yikes.
I know, which is a damn shame. I love especially the rotating stage constantly, especially when Billy Barty is trying to do his number, and there's just absolute chaos. But I'm here for shit like that, honestly.
Yeah.
It could not detract me.
Stephen Tobolowsky, if you look at his filmography around this time, he was like in every movie. It's insane how much work he got over like a 2 or 3 year period of time. Because we have, I think there's Groundhog Day, of course, is the one that most people know him from. There was Thelma and Louise. There was Basic Instinct. Memoirs of the Invisible Man, Single White Female, Sneakers. And I can't really remember anything after
Spaceballs.
Well, that's way before that, though. That's 87.
Right.
But he was on a run, man, and it's just really interesting how some actors can get a ton of work and then just kind of slowly fades away. Like, whatever happened to that guy? But if I look at his filmography, I bet you it's fully loaded. I bet you he's still working a lot.
I would not doubt it. Oh, no. I think he was in a season of the show Silicon. I'm pretty sure he was. He was like one of the CEOs trying to buy out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I got to watch that again. I really love that show.
I don't know. Damn good show. Goddamn Mike Judge. But yeah, Jeffrey Tambor was in this. Michael McKean. Michael Lerner as Detective Cross. Oh, jeez.
You got Bobcat. And let's not forget, Mary Stuart Masterson is the other co-lead in this. Oh, Brian Benben. I forgot to mention that part. Brian Benben was... You probably don't know who this is.
From Dream On.
Okay, so you actually...
That's what the show was called.
I thought maybe you were too young for Dream On, because there was a time when that was like the first... I think it was literally the first HBO production from a studio instead of some independent thing that they bought from someone else. Where it was like, this is what we're going to do. And, they had signed on for... I think it was on for like 5 or 6 years. And then like the second it was over with, his career just faded away. It's kind of a shame, because if you watch Comedy Central during the 90s, Dream On was on like 4 times a day. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah. No, like, honestly, that was like one of the big shows that was talked about, like, growing up around that time.
Yeah, and it's a
like,
very...
Even me being a kid, I, would hear about how much it was talked about.
Yeah. It's a very difficult show. They can't do reruns anymore. They lost, the time. The only license... See, if you haven't seen Dream On, what it is about a guy who constantly fantasizes, like Walter Mitty, that kind of character, where he goes into alternate realities. But this is always using clips from old TV shows and movies. Well, eventually those licenses lapsed, and they can't put anything out on DVD. They put the first season out, but it was so expensive, and it didn't make that much money, so they just moved on. Which is a shame, because that's the same thing happened to Drew Carey. There's a lot of music clips, and they won't put the money out for it.
It's an absolute damn shame, just because they can't. Ugh.
I think Warner Brothers is being cheap. There's no way it costs that much for that music, and just license it out to someone like Shout Factory, who will put the money, and fans who will pay $100 or more for the series set. Don't put them out in seasons. Don't fucking do that, because every time that happens, they're like, well, season 3 didn't sell enough. Let's not release season 4. I'm like, but it's the last season. Just do it, dicks.
Exactly. For sure. Exactly. I mean, especially like with so much time has elapsed, it's like, yeah, just release a box set of the entire series.
I'm still waiting for season 3 of Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and it's so irritating. We're like almost to the finish line. Arr!
That's kind of like what Capcom did with one of their video games. Like, they put out a remake or remaster of the first game instead of just releasing a whole collection of them. Like, well, of course it wasn't going to sell that much. You barely put it out there, and it's only the first one. People want to play the other ones. Yeah.
I just feel like in 1994, Universal just was not focused on Radioland Murders at all. They had just come off of Time Cop, which was making a ton of money, and they're getting ready for the Christmas season, which I'm trying to remember what they released. It was River Wild, Time Cop, then this. I know Street Fighter's in there somewhere, and there was some big November movie, and they were just like, we don't need to bother. Did they do Richie Rich? I think they did.
I'm pretty sure. Let me check up Let me
So
check
it
real quick.
sounds like that's the kind of thing that they were just like, let's not waste the production money, the promotional money on Radioland Murders. But it is a lot of fun if you're into retro stuff, and especially if, like me, I'm fascinated with radio, and especially old-time radio. It is a good one to go find.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, like, all the people that were in this movie, like, as you mentioned, Bobcat Goldthwait, Harvey Korman, another one of the writers, too.
No, I was wrong. Richie Rich is from Warner Brothers.
Oh, no, I was talking about Radioland Murders. But,
no, I was looking to see if Richie Rich was from Universal Studios.
Right. Okay. Dang, I was just about to look that up, too. You beat me to it.
Fastest hands in the West.
You got me, partner. Anyway. But yeah, no, again, Peter McNichol, all those people that were in the writer's room, and then there was that one person who wasn't a writer, whatever her name was, she always came up with the best ideas. I'm like, she needs a little pay raise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was, again, the conflicts going on within each department. Oh, man. That was funny. It's especially when Bobcat Goldthwait was the one about to lose it. Again, for me, it was just an absolute joy to watch.
If you liked Brain Donors, the movie we discussed, I think it was 2 seasons ago, the 1992 season. The British guy, the one that was from European Vacation, he is the director of this, Mel Smith, and he has a very particular tone that's kind of fast-paced and goofy. I think he would meet more success a few years later when he would do Being the Movie, but his first one, it's a very small independent movie from 1985 called Morons from Outer Space, and it's a lot of fun. You should go find it.
Morons from Outer Space.
Yeah.
I feel. Oh God, is that along the line? Is that what inspired people, the creators, to make Butt Ugly Martians? Would you say that?
I don't know what Butt Ugly Martians is.
Oh, it's an old animated show from when I was a kid.
Oh.
Probably overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big age difference between the two of us, so I think there's a line where I stopped watching cartoons, and you started, and we don't meet up again until Adult Swim.
Oh man!
All right, so
Adult Swim does have that magic.
That is our 5 films. We have one more episode to go, and I'm going to let you know now. It's Wagons East. I think highly underrated Western. John Candy's last film. The Ref, Greedy, The Scout, and River Wild.
Of course. Okay, good.
All right. What?
Okay, now I'm trying to remember. Okay, Wagons East. I think I remember watching briefly. Like when I was a kid. Yeah, it was him and Richard Lewis. Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
I never got around to watching it until, because I've been Western crazy lately, and I was like, this thing was a huge flop. Everybody hated it. I'm having fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the hate sometimes for some movies is just unjustifiable.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see you then. You know where to find us. Jacob, send us out.
All right, everybody. Be excellent to each other. Namaste and good luck.
And be excellent to each other.